Welcome to another episode of the DBL Podcast, the place where we discuss the business side of health. And it's my great privilege to introduce today's guest because he was on my bucket list for a very, very long time. And today it's all actually happening. Dr. Kyle Stanley is a globally recognized leader in modern dentistry, listed among world's top 100 doctors in dentistry. A graduate of USC, Dr. Stanley advanced his training in dental implants in Brazil and has published extensively on aesthetics, implants, mental health, and plastic surgery. As a co-founder of Pearl, a dental AI company which was valued at over $400 million, he's helping reshape patient care and diagnostic accuracy. Dr. Stanley advises leading dental tech companies and champions mental health in profession through his award-winning Lightside Academy, which helps dentists prevent burnout and build sustainable careers. A sought-after speaker, he presented on 6 continents, inspiring audiences with his forward-thinking approach to dentistry. Kyle, welcome to the DBL Podcast.
Thank you. Really, really nice to be here. I'm glad that we could make it happen.
So let me start on a light note because my trademark is bad jokes, which you will figure out.
We'll get along well then.
So if you would be given a chance, would you present on the 7th continents?
Yeah,
So
I'm there.
Which one? Antarctica is probably missing.
Antarctica, yeah. I
So-
need to go there because my family has my great uncle has a mountain range named after him there. They did some excursion, so I need to go there and see the mountain range.
So just a fun fact, last year at the DBL Summit, we had a speaker who spent 1 year on Antarctica.
Wow.
He's a young doctor working in NASA, and he was a part of the experiment where they wanted to see if astronauts can withstand 1 year of travel to Mars. So they were isolated for 11 months on Antarctica.
Oh my gosh.
And he told us that they went through some really hard times. And it was so
bet.
interesting. And I think it aligns with your topic of mental health to see how they managed to keep their human relationships intact to survive 11 months in isolation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you
Amazing.
will need somebody to put a good word for you, so we have...
To go to Antarctica. Yeah,
It's
you got the
actually,
connection.
it's Jasper Tollen's brother.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So Stein works in NASA and he's a young doctor. And so you have a connection if you want to go
I
and give a
do.
lecture there. So listen, we always try to make it more personal in the beginning. So I prepared like 10 questions, which are like yes or no. Like,
Sounds good.
should we go through them?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Rapid fire.
Morning or evening person?
Morning.
Morning. Rock or classic?
Rock.
Actually, it's
sure.
like heavy
Heavy
metal.
rock. Yes. Exactly.
Wine or beer or none?
0. I've never drank alcohol.
Wow, that's amazing. I really appreciate that. This
you.
one is difficult. Cowboy hats or baseball caps?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I'm probably 50-50 on this, but I think for more style, I'll go cowboy hats.
Wow, okay. I know this one, but I have to ask, just of politeness, German or American cars?
Oh, German, for sure. Yeah, no question. I'm a Porsche nut.
Surfing or jiu-jitsu?
Ooh.
Oh, a difficult one.
That's a difficult one. Yeah, you threw me for a loop there. I would say surfing. I love jiu-jitsu, but when I can surf, it's a magical time.
Career or family or possibly both?
I think family. Career is there to support family only.
Nice,
Really.
nice, love it. Another difficult one, clinical work or public speaking? I mean, dentists love dentistry.
Public speaking, I would think. And then that's only because I can impact more people. I think even if I'm going on how many patients I can impact more patients by teaching the doctors than going one individual patient.
That's a really nice perspective. Status quo or change?
For sure, change, pushing the limits.
Partnership or solopreneurship?
Currently, I say solopreneurship.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I know because you're partner in several projects, so that's a very interesting.
I am, yes.
Leader.
I enjoy my freedom. I appreciate freedom so much more now that I'm doing so many things independently. I think that's why I would answer that way.
Wow, thank you. Leader or a follower?
Leader.
And the final one, dentist or futurist?
I think dentist. I'm a dentist at heart for sure. But, I know we're going to talk later about the diversified identity strategy, so we can go a little bit deeper into that because there's a negative part about keeping your profession as your identity too.
Well, to start on this point, even though, my line of thoughts is a bit different, the problem I had preparing for this podcast is that you're putting out so much high quality content. I changed my line of questioning probably like 10 times in the last 10 days because you're always putting out there great material. And your last podcast with Martin, you were talking about diversifying your identity. And while I was preparing for this conversation, I found research that over-identification is like a sure sign that you're in a burnout. Yeah.
So this identity of diversified identity strategy came to me when I was watching an investment YouTube video. And it was this guy talking about investments and basically saying, if you're going to invest, you want to make sure that you're diversified. You want to have some real estate. You maybe want Bitcoin. You maybe want gold. You want some stocks. Maybe you want something like startups that are highly volatile or have high highs and low lows. And he was saying basically that you had a lot of people in the early 2000s, let's say 2005. In 2005, if you had all of your investments in real estate, you were kicking ass. I mean, you were making money, you were top of the world. But then 2008 came, at least in the US, and the real estate market went belly up. I mean, if you had everything in real estate, you were upside down in every property that you had. And what he was saying was people that were diversified, yes, their real estate went down, but when real estate went down, maybe stocks went up, or maybe gold went up, or maybe, Bitcoin went up, or maybe startups went up. And it's the same thing with our identity. And I had put all of my time, money, and effort into dentistry. And then when something bad happened in dentistry, which it's bound to happen, a crown's going to fall off, an implant's going to fail, a patient's going to want their money back, or you're going to get a bad review, that your whole self-worth will drop and you think that there's nothing to you anymore. Yeah. But if you have this diversified identity strategy, meaning, yes, I'm a dentist, but that's part of my life. I'm also a father. I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm also a brother. I'm also a surfer. I also am a fan of music, right? Yes. I'm an artist. That those parts can go through difficult times, but you will survive that recession.
It's such a great paradigm or comparison. And I was really blown away that it never came to my mind that it's so logical when you invest, you never invest in one thing, but then we tend to push all of our efforts into like one major identity, and then it's just defining us as a person, which is shrinking actually who we are.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and I think when you're in a profession like ours, where it takes a long time to get there, it's easier to be funneled into that single identity because you have to go to school for, 8 years, 10 years, depending on your residencies. Yeah. And it really funnels you into that thinking you are only this one person. That is what you are.
So going forward, let's dive in a little bit at the dental side of who you are. And I just want to make one pre-frame this part of the conversation by saying US dentistry is not the same, and it's not viewed the same as the European dentistry. You know, the pressure in the US of going through that dental journey and like taking loans, being under a lot of pressure, etc., it's not the same. It's similar, but it's not the same in Europe. So I will really appreciate that you give us like an insight at the US story, but also sometimes when possible try to, you know, compare it to like what would your European colleagues maybe feel like, or look for some sort of a like a comparable thing of this journey. And to start off, like what would you say about Kyle Stanley, the dentist today?
I mean, today, Kyle Stanley, the dentist, I would say that I have a comprehensive global vision on what's happening in dentistry and where it's going. And a lot of that comes from my training. So I trained in Germany, I trained in Brazil, and I trained in the US. And I have friends from all over the world in dentistry like you do. And I also run a mastermind that has dentists from all over the world in it, especially in Europe too. So I've really gotten to know some of the big differences and a lot of the similarities. And what I will say, global dentistry in general, about 80% of it is the exact same. We all go through the same shit. We have the same crazy patients, you know, we have the same problems with lab communication and with specialists and with materials and, you know, all this kind of stuff. Where it changes, I think one of the big changes, like you mentioned, is the education system.
Yes.
So in the United States, education is not free. And the average dentist is coming out of dental school with around $400,000 worth of debt.
Wow.
That's the average dentist. So of course there's more, there's less.
Yes.
And that is probably one of the biggest differences. But I would say, especially after getting deeper into what's happening in Europe recently, that although we have more of the financial offset with debt, I think we have more financial opportunity after that. For example, there's a lot of countries now that are going to fixed fees.
Yeah, you mentioned that in Netherlands, I think, in one of your
Yeah, in
posts.
the Netherlands. And I learned actually after posting that's happening in Sweden now. It's happening in some other countries. So dentists in the US, I think, tend to make more money on average, but we start behind the eight ball. Where, you know, we start with all of this school loan debt that unfortunately I think forces a lot of young dentists to make poor decisions in the beginning of their career.
So the pressure starts like day one.
Day one, it's like you get out of school, that next month you have a $6,000 school loan debt that you have to pay.
Wow, that's crazy. It sounds crazy, really, from our perspective, because, for example, some of the dental universities are for free, and it's a totally different ball game. And I think that's why it's so good that we discuss about this, because, you know, people here, when they listen to you saying there is a $400,000 debt to start with, it's like a huge pressure on your back.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it definitely is. And I hear this all the time. I think about it as a cloud. It's like a cloud, like a rain cloud that kind of follows me wherever I go.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, most dentists don't pay it off for 20 plus years.
So fast forward, you have a practice. Well, if I'm correct, Beverly Hills.
Yeah. So I have
just give us
like
a short intro or description what's going on.
Yeah, so I have a practice in Beverly Hills with two partners. One of them a lot of people know, Matt Najad. He's really a world-renowned dentist, teaches biomimetic dentistry all over the world. He's, in my opinion, one of the best dentists in the US. And we do low-volume, high-end dentistry. So we see very little patients. You know, we may see 4 patients a day per doctor. But we do really high quality, take our time. We only see 1 patient at a time. We use rubber dam, we use guided surgery,
all the good
digital
stuff.
smile design, all the good stuff, right? So we really try to do what we were taught in our dental school. So Matt and I both were taught by Pascal Magnier, and he was one of our first mentors. So
Great
in
guy.
order to do that kind of treatment, you really have to take your time. It's hard to do that kind of treatment quickly. And so our practices, it tends to be different. We have 52 dentists in our building. So for anybody that's complaining about having too much competition in your city
52.
or in your county, or 52 in our building.
Wow.
Yes. So it's a 9-story building, and we're the most expensive. So, someone could literally walk out our front door and walk 2 meters and walk into another practice that is half the price. So we really have to have incredible customer service, incredible communication, good atmosphere. We have to follow up on the things that we say. And we understand that not every patient is right for our practice.
So you have the right also to choose your patients, if I understand
That's exactly
correctly.
right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the big learnings that I had. I mean, we may talk about my burnout, but before I went through burnout, I accepted every patient that came into the practice, to my detriment. And now I realize that not every patient is right for my practice, whether that is their personality, whether that is their finances, whether that is how much time they have available, how fast they want things. If you want something fast, that's not us. That's just not us. We do slow dentistry.
Yeah, I like what you were describing with Martin about like trying to make more realistic expectations with patients, and not calling every visit like a delivery visit, etc. But it's a trying, it's a trying, and it's such a good. Just to take this piece of advice, there is a lot of golden nuggets in the material that you're sharing, and that was such an amazing eye opener for me, just to use this strategy to lower their expectations.
Yeah, it's funny how the smallest little change can make such a huge change in how patients respond or you respond. So this was something that I came up with after my burnout. And the reason why is because I use the language of we're going to deliver your crown. We're going to give you your crown. Today you get your crown, And then it doesn't happen because there's an open contact, or the margin isn't right, or the shade isn't right. And then the patient doesn't tell you that the next day they have a wedding to go to, or they're leaving on vacation for 3 months or something.
Yes.
And then they're really pissed off at you, right?
Yes.
So as you set these expectations using the right communication, not only does it make it easier for the patient, I think, but also makes it easier for you.
Yeah.
Because every case that you're going into, quote unquote, deliver, you don't have that requirement. And so you're saying, if it's ready, perfect, then we'll put it in. It'll be great. But if it's not, the patient's expecting that, and I don't have all the stress coming in. So it's like I first did it for the patient, and that's what I was teaching. And then when I started teaching this, a lot of the doctors were telling me, what's so great about it is not for the patient, it's for me. It's for the dentist, that I don't feel like this pressure every time I come in to deliver.
Yeah, I can totally relate with this. And recently I watched Dr. Nitsan Bichacha give a lecture.
Yeah.
And his opening slide was a statement, I think it was by John Coyce: every dental work will fail in the end.
Yes.
So the patients probably think if you do your dental work once, it's forever. And actually it's not true.
Yeah, it's a big problem. And I first of all, I love Nitsan. He's a good friend and just an amazing person, amazing clinician, amazing inventor. He's done so much for dentistry. I believe that setting the expectation, we like to blame the patients, but it falls on us. It's our lack of communication and our lack of setting the right expectation. Because people think that if you pay for something that is quote unquote expensive, that it should last forever. And that's not the case. And so much of it has nothing to do with what we do. You can do the most amazing implant, the most amazing crown, the perfect denture, but the patient still has 1,000 meals a year using it. It's like getting a new car and thinking, I'm never going to service it. I'm never going to change the tires. I'm never going to wash it. I'm never going to do anything. So I like this because I'm a car guy, I'm a car nut, as you know, I like using this term of service. So saying, Mrs. Jones, we're going to, attempt to place your crown today.
Wow.
If everything works and everything's good, then you'll leave with it. But sometimes we have to make sure things are good or the contact may be not right. And then once you get it, just understand that at some point in your life, you're going to have to service this. That means we may need to make a bite adjustment. We may need to completely remove the crown. The tooth may need a root canal at some point. The contact may open up. This could happen in a few weeks, or it could happen in 35 years. I have no idea. But what I know is that at some point in your life, you will have to service this.
So what I hear from you is that you change the way you communicate to your patients, which leads me to the next point of our discussion, or in our discussion, is there was a turning point in your career where you realized that focusing too much on clinical part of your profession is basically driving you in the wrong direction. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It was February of 2018, and I came home, and it was literally a dark and stormy night. And I remember that because in California, we don't have a lot of dark and stormy nights. And I came home to the front door, went to open the front door, and it was locked. The deadbolt was on. So knocked on the door, my wife opened it, and she was holding my son, who was 1 at the time. And she said, "Well, welcome home." And I said, "I can't do this anymore." And for anybody that's married, this is not what you want to say to your spouse without some context. So she's like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Marriage, kids, living together. What do you mean, Kyle? And I was like, oh, no, dentistry. I can't do dentistry anymore. So on the outside, I had everything that any young dentist would want. I had this quote unquote celebrity practice in Beverly Hills doing high-end dentistry. I was doing the periopros cases I always wanted to do, traveling around the world, teaching people how to do stuff, publishing in big articles, making really good money, driving nice cars. But I was miserable. I realized that at the time, I had put all my effort into my clinical ability, thinking that that would solve all my problems. But it didn't. I was being sued by a patient. I was being sued by a team member. I had clinical complications with normal clinical complications, nothing crazy, but patients that were mad, patients that wrote bad reviews, that wanted their money back. And that affected me so much that I was really just ready to quit. And so I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what it was. And so I went on this journey. And because I am a research nerd, I just love clinical research, I started looking deep into clinical research. But I didn't look at dental research. I started looking at psychology, communication, the psychology of overachievers, thinking about long-term sustainable success. And so it really was the start of my personal growth journey. And so I started getting better. I started taking time off. My practice started making more money. I was happier. I was healthier. I started exercising more. And my whole life changed. And what I realized was the secret to having sustainable success in dentistry is mastering your mental and relational health. And that's when people started I started sharing this story, and people started asking me, well, how did you do it? Tell me the secrets. And that was really how it snowballed into what it is today.
But even today, and even though the clinical problems are not the biggest problems of clinicians, am I right? You posted recently the biggest sources of stress in dentistry, and there was no clinical problems. It was all relationships, like 78% was relationships. And even today, it's still, that's my feeling, that's my experience. The non-clinical stuff, the let's say business skills or soft skills, they are still somehow low on the radar of dental events, dental conferences. That's at least, I could be completely wrong, but it's still like 99% clinical.
You're exactly right. And I think, you and I are two peas in a pod in that we understand how important these soft skills are. But I know some dentists that they're so burned out, they want to quit, but then they say, I don't know anything else. All I know how to do is prep teeth, place implants, do dentures. And that's because our entire schooling is about clinical work, which I understand we need to learn the clinical work. But at some point, we need to put some percentage of our time, money, and effort into these non-clinical skills. Because when you look at me, like I had amazing mentors, clinical mentors, Sasha Jovanovic, Christian Coachman, Pascal Magnier, some of the top guys in the world. But I still went through burnout. And that was because I didn't have any of those soft skills. I didn't know how to set expectations. I didn't know how to set boundaries. I was a poor communicator and I was a poor leader. And once I put some time, money, and effort into those 4 things, my career took off. I was so happy. My patients got better treatment. My staff was happier. We grew our practice significantly, all because of those soft skills. So it's like we need to somehow get the message across to dentists that taking your margins from 45 microns to 35 microns is not going to make you happier.
My experience is when I give lectures at dental congresses in the region, I always ask the audience, please raise your hand if your biggest problem, something that wakes you up at night, is a clinical problem. Mm-hmm. And out of a couple of thousand people, only one person raised it. And then I say, guys, what are we doing wrong? If your biggest problems are not clinical, what are you doing to address the real problems?
You're exactly right. And, one of the problems with that is that there aren't a lot of resources because it's like supply and demand. There's not a lot of demand for these non-clinical courses, so then a lot of people don't create them.
Yes.
So when I created one, it was almost like I had to convince people why it's so important. Now, there's people that either are going through burnout or already went through burnout. They know. They're like, I get it.
Yeah.
I realize why I went through burnout, right?
Yeah.
And they are ready to take these courses.
Yes.
But convincing people that haven't gone through burnout is challenging. It's like I want to catch people before they have the problems, but sometimes I feel like they need to learn it themselves in order to value these non-clinical skills.
Yeah, it's actually a question. I told you when we were discussing before, I spent a lot of time at Tony Robbins trainings in the
amazing
worldwide, and he's one of the really big guys, titans. And
yeah.
I was so inspired because I saw people going through changes, and a lot of his interventions in the room, they were just amazing. And then I went back and I started to ask dentists, why don't you change? Because your biggest problems are not clinical. When will you start to make some changes? And my answer to this question is that pain is not big enough. They make good money, they have a great living, they can buy a new car, a new house, new whatever. So there is no real pain that would make them do the change.
There's a story that I heard recently, and it's this guy's walking on the street, and he comes along to this other guy that has a dog, and the dog is whimpering. And he goes, what the heck's wrong with your dog? And he goes, he's sitting on a nail. And he goes, oh, well, why doesn't he move? And he said, well, it doesn't hurt enough. And it's kind of like we dentists, right? We're the same way. It's like until we get to this either burnout or depression or anxiety or ready to quit, it's so hard to motivate people to change. And you're exactly right when you say that dentistry up to this point has almost been too easy to where we're rewarded still, even though we have pain. It's like we need to open people's eyes on what their biggest frustrations are. They never think about that.
I always try to also influence people because what you're doing is just amazing, and it's touching and influencing so many professionals worldwide. And then I also sometimes tell them, all chronic disease, they are not hurting in the beginning. Diabetes doesn't hurt. But when it's too late, it means when you're in a deep burnout, then it will be very hard to change your lifestyle, your identity, etc. and there is no pain for the first couple of years. And then when diabetes kicks in, then, all the outcomes are like terrible. And it's the
Right.
same thing. And I'm still trying to find a way how to, make people aware that they should diversify their identity and exactly all the things that you're doing to become more aware of that.
Well, you and I both know, we've seen people, and I think in our own journeys, that once people spend this time, money, and effort on these soft skills, they kick ass. I mean, their whole
Yes.
life changes. They become better parents. They become better lovers. They become better leaders, better dentists. I mean, that was how it was for me. It wasn't just that my practice took off. My whole life changed. I mean, I became a better husband, a better parent. I'm such a better parent now than I was. Parenting is probably the hardest job in the world. I think even harder than dentistry. And all the things that I've learned from my personal growth journey have made me such a better parent.
I totally understand, and I would say I drink every word you're saying, because I can. The same thing happened to me. I run 3 different companies. I've been in dentistry for 30 years, and I made my business identity like number one. And then
Yeah.
in 2017, when I went to the first Tony Robbins training, it all fell apart. Luckily for me, I was in a very supporting environment, and
Yeah.
I reached out for help, and then my life completely changed. And I'm trying to, send the same message to every dental professional I get in contact with.
Yeah. And you've helped so many people. I mean, bravo to you for bringing these resources to everybody.
But thank you for saying that. I really appreciate this, because doing this podcast with you, it's so unreal. I have been not dreaming about it, but not far from that statement, to actually get the chance to talk to you and to collaborate with you, which is just amazing, next level for me.
Yeah.
But still, what would be, you collaborate with some amazing people as well, but what would be other influential voices, like, for example, Martin, who are speaking out, like, who are other people who are speaking out the same message to the dental market?
Yeah, there's not a lot that are doing it at, I would say, a big scale. I have some friends in Australia that are starting to talk about it. There's a few people in the US that are doing it. And they're putting out great content, but unfortunately, they don't have a big enough following to where it's making a big difference. I mean, I love seeing more and more people talking about this now, which is why I've tried to come out and be, the face of this, or the scapegoat, even, you can think of, like,
Yes.
use me as a reason to make this an okay conversation to have. I mean, it's great to see, like, I do a podcast with Christian Coachman as well called The Happy Dentist, and Christian's very big on talking about this, and also Dr. Ingrid Mura, who I do that podcast with. So there aren't a ton of people. I wish there was more, actually. Simon Chard in the UK, my good friend in the
Yes.
UK, Simon
Yes.
Chard, he has been talking about it for years, which is why he and I really connected, and he's like my UK brother.
Great.
Because we've really gone through a lot of the same things. So it's great to see people just being more real now. Even if I see people that post 90% clinical stuff on their Instagrams or YouTubes, but more people are talking about the challenges now. And I think that's what we need, is we need more real conversations to know that people aren't alone. They're not the only one dealing with this. And the more we can get people talking about it on social media, have it be discussed in some of the biggest congresses, and I think that we're going to really help the profession that way.
I totally agree with you. And there is one important distinction that I want you to somehow clarify. You're using the term mental resilience, not mental health. So why did you choose the resilience phrase?
Yeah, I think mental health implies that you get health and then you just maintain that the rest of your life. And that's not really true. The reason why I'd like to talk about mental resilience is because our profession is fucking hard. Being a dentist is challenging. And that's not going to change, right? You're going to have challenging cases. You're going to have challenging patients. You're going to have challenging team members. You're going to suffer with work-life balance and financial problems. But if you have resilience, if you have the skills to know how to handle this, then you can get through these difficult times. So that's really what I needed. I needed the resilience that I got that came from having the soft skills. So it's like you learn the soft skills, those teach you how to handle these challenging subjects, and then you know how to deal with them. Because I tell people all the time, you go through my course or you come to my in-person thing or whatever, it's not like you're not going to have complications anymore. You're still going to.
There is
it's
no
not like
magic
you're not
pill.
going to have,
yeah,
you're not going to have team members that show up late anymore. Yeah, you're going to. It's going to happen. But how you communicate, how you set the expectations, how you are a better leader, that's what's going to make the difference in these situations.
I think you posted today that there is a space between the response and the impulse is something you basically like, it's like a starting point where you're not reacting to everything, but there is like a space of freedom to choose your response. Am I right?
Yeah, so that's a Viktor Frankl quote that I think was originally from Stephen Covey, but really it's this idea that there's a space between stimulus and the response, and within that space is where you can have your growth.
Yeah.
And when I learned this from Martin Mendelsohn, my co-host on Wellness and Dentistry, and when I first heard this from him, I kind of thought it was bullshit, to be honest with you. I was like, I don't really know that. And then as I grew more and more, I realized just how powerful this was, and actually just how little space I had in my life. So I had let's say a patient that said something rude, I would immediately respond back. I had a team member that did something wrong, I would immediately respond back. And once you have the self-awareness that this is even possible, then you start thinking, okay, how can I respond? I used to think that my emotions were automatic. I didn't realize that I can actually control my emotions. And the more you can control your emotions, oh my gosh, the power that you have, the relationships that you can build when you have that. So when I got better at this, my initial response may have been a second. Then it was 10 seconds. Then it could be a minute. I mean, now I'll have challenging things happen and I may not respond for days if I don't have to. And I can think about how do I want to respond? How is this going to benefit the other person, me, my family, my career, and then respond in a much more relaxed way that actually helps the situation. So that was a huge learning for me.
Yeah. I mean, if you react immediately, basically the other person controls you. You give the other person the control of your emotions, your behavior, your reaction, which is not a good feeling.
Yeah.
But it seems that you and Martin have a amazing chemistry together. I've just listened to your last episode about. I listened a couple of them, but one I listened today was about Post-it, and organizing
Post-it
your
note
time.
Yeah.
It seems that you really enjoy creating this content with him. So how did you two got together and decided to do wellness in dentistry?
Yeah. So during the pandemic, one of our friends, Todd Shire, who's a periodontist in Texas, he knew both of us and said, both of you guys are kind of talking about this mental health stuff and leadership, and you guys should meet. Neither of us knew who the other person even was. And we got on a panel, a webinar, because there were a lot of those happening during the pandemic, right? Because everyone was just sitting at home. And I really enjoyed what he was saying, and he enjoyed what I was saying. So we started discussing how we could work together, and then we started doing our Light Side Live in-person course together, which is a 2-day, 12 CE credit in-person course, all about all these soft skills that nobody teaches.
It's happening soon, am I right?
It's happening next week. Yeah, it's happening next week, August 8th and 9th in California. And so we started doing those together. And then we started saying, hey, maybe we should do a podcast ourselves. And he and I just think so similarly. We've both learned so much from each other, and we just have so much fun. He's just a great person. He really cares about the profession. He really has a lot of knowledge, and I'm just so thankful to have him as a friend. It's been really, really fun doing working and just being a friend with him.
I would say that just by listening to that source of information, there are so many good guidelines, like good practices, things you can like do literally next day in your practice, and it will improve both your professional, way of treating other people, you as a person. So I think it's just my advice to everybody who is watching us today is just one thing is you can go to the Wellness in Dentistry and just go through that material. It's just, I was taking notes all
Thank
day.
you.
I rewrote my questions again after listening to that. It's really amazing that you're putting so much content out there.
Thank you. Yeah, we wanted to have a lot of free content out there because, of course, we have paid content. We have paid online courses. We have paid in-person courses. We have coaching programs. But we wanted free stuff because a lot of people come to us in crisis and say, what can I do? Like, what is something fast? And it's just like, boom, here's 70 episodes,
Wow.
And we're giving away a ton of stuff. So we wanted to just have some free stuff for the people that weren't ready to go to a paid program.
So looking at the way you communicate on social media, and here I'm talking about Instagram, I would never guess that you are like a dental professional, let's say in the same style that Michael Appa is just talking about, the clinical side and the way the work is organized and doing different aesthetic stuff in dentistry. When I look at your Instagram profile, it's like you're like a 360-degree person, showing your family, showing the bad influence from one of your partners about cars and Porsche, and stuff like that. So was that done like intentionally, or did you just change the way you will communicate to the world about who you are?
It is now intentional, but it wasn't always like that. So before my burnout, it was just dentistry, just clinical cases and all of this. As my career diversified, so did what I post. And then really after my burnout, when I started thinking of myself as more than just a dentist, was when I really started being more open about what's happening in my personal life and, my other hobbies. And what's funny is when I go and I speak, because I speak all over the place, I will go, I'll be in, Alaska giving a lecture, and the people will come up to me and say, hi, I love seeing the pictures of your kids.
Yeah.
Or I love when you and your daughter are at the beach in the morning. It's like, that's so cool. And it's so nice because they're complimenting on me as a person. They're not complimenting on me as a clinician or in my career. And I think it's just because it relates to them. I mean, many people have kids, or they are married, or have neighbors, or have problems with their home, or whatever it is. So I really just wanted to be real. And I've gotten really great feedback actually from doing that. So that, of course, makes me want to post more things like that. So I try to have a balance of giving advice, showing my real life every day, investment stuff, startup stuff, research, all of the little areas that I have my hands in.
Well, the story that I really like and I would like to get some more updates is the rabbit, because it seems that you are fighting your lawn to be maintained in the right way. I looked at you fixing that like with sand and with like trying to make your grass grow. So what's happening with the rabbit?
Yeah, so a little backstory. I have a very small lawn, and it has become a little bit of an obsession with me. I want to have a really nice lawn in the front of my house, but we live right on the edge of kind of the wilderness. We're by the beach, but we're also in the hills by the beach.
Yes.
And so we have skunks and rabbits and sometimes snakes and raccoons and deer and all kind of animals. And the rabbits love eating my lawn. And so I was, my wife won't let me kill the rabbits, so I have to catch the rabbits. And so I actually caught 3 rabbits. I didn't post it because I didn't want people to think
I saw the empty ones, not the...
Yes. Yeah, I didn't post it because I didn't want people to get too crazy on me. But I caught 3 rabbits in 1 week. I rehomed them to another place not too far from my house. And at first, my lawn was doing pretty well. And now my lawn is going back to crap again. So it's a constant struggle. It's a fun little hobby that I have.
Yeah, we will follow up on that, to see how you're making progress. But yes. I want to touch base with one really important thing that I became aware recently. I told you I walked the Camino de Santiago,
yes.
which is a great way of getting to know yourself. There is a saying, you should go to Rome and meet the Pope, go to Jerusalem to meet the God, but walk the Camino to get to know who you are. And on the second day of my walk, which was 820 kilometers, I walked with a lady, and I casually asked her, like, is this your first Camino? This is like a opening question. And she said, no, it's my 5th. And she was like 65 to 70 years old. And wow. I said, why do you come back? And she said, because here I'm just Sylvia. So, and it's enough. And now the second thing that, and I will come to the question is, did you see the video from Jim Carrey when he was on the Golden Globe Awards?
Yes. Yes.
And he said, if I would receive the 3rd Golden Globe Award, then it would be enough and I would be enough. So is it enough for you? It was a bit longer introduction, but the question is really important to me. Is it enough for you to be just Kyle? How does it feel?
Now it is. I used to love to be called Dr. Stanley, have my friends introduce me as Dr. Stanley, and now I really prefer to just be called Kyle. I learned this in my personal growth journey, which is enjoy the journey and not the destination. And that's a constant struggle for me because, yes, I like nice things. I like, of course, getting praise, right? I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah.
But I had to realize what was really important and what I wanted to be known for when I was dead. I didn't want my kids or my grandkids to say, wow, Grandpa was the most amazing dentist. His margins were 35 microns and his implants never lost bone, right? No, I wanted them to know me for who I am and for what I do for others. And that's more than my profession. So currently, yes, but that came after a lot of learning.
For me, it was like a revelation because when you walk the Camino, the people just know you by your name. They don't know who you are, what you do. How did you come
I was going to
here?
ask you, do you know what Sylvia did in her life?
No, we were just walking on the second day, and then she had to quit because she injured one of her feet got injured. But
what a shame.
It was so powerful when she said, "Here I'm just Sylvia," and it was like that light bulb moment, and that's enough.
Yeah.
And for me, that was like a life-changing thing. And then I started to think, like, is it enough who I am? And I have the same answer. It is. Yeah. And so let's clear one other thing, which is musically very important. I ask Perplexity AI, and then we will jump to the AI. Did you play in the band Atreyu? And Perplexity was not sure. Did you or you didn't?
Yeah, it's funny, on Wikipedia, there's something weird too about that. So I'm the original bass player of the band Atreyu, which is a kind of heavy metal band. They still tour today. They were just in Australia, I think last week. They're some of my best friends. And I really left the band to go to college and dental school when we were touring basically. So it was, just getting ready to tour, and I was going to college and going to be a doctor. So yeah, I officiated the wedding of the drummer.
Wow.
Just a few years ago. I went to the wedding of the guitar
Nice.
player. They're all still my really good friends. I mean, we were childhood friends, and it's so cool to see your friends succeed. You know, to see them
Yes.
continually doing
Yes.
what they're doing, traveling around the world. Yeah, it's been really cool. But it's a fun little fact.
So it sounds like music is an important part of your life and that you enjoy it.
Music has always been an important part of my life because I started dancing when I was 6, and I started dancing professionally when I was 8. So I danced professionally from 8 to 18. So that was always, music was filling my rooms and, you know, my life. And then when I was 12, I started playing the bass, and then I really got deep into music, and I was in bands for, gosh, I mean, 15 years. I was in touring rock bands. I was a professional backup bass player. I played for a 15-year-old pop singer. So I
Wow.
was doing a lot with music, even when I was still in dental school, actually. So yeah, it's been a big part of my life, and still one of my favorite things to do is drive my old car with the top down and listen to, you know, some 80s pop music or some 90s heavy metal or something like this.
That's so cool. I'm also a big fan of music, and that's why at the DBL Summit we have a live band on stage, which is a
I
part
saw
of.
the video. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's part. Well, there is also part of the video I will send you where we drove all the speakers in Porsche cars to the stage. So we will try to do
It's
something
like
special
meant
for
for
you.
me, Sinisa. Come on.
Yeah, that's like an invitation. So, just briefly about the AI, Pearl is a huge success. I spoke with Dr. Igor Ristic from
Oh yeah.
Serbia, and he
Hmm.
told me that you're also working on like getting the FDA approval for the 3D, etc. So,
Yeah.
can you
We already got
update
that
us?
actually.
Can you
Hmm.
update us on the Pearl?
Yeah. So Pearl is a dental AI company that I started. We started working on it in 2015. It wasn't called Pearl until 2019, and we analyze radiographs in dentistry. So we started on 2D intraoral radiographs, then we went to panoramic radiographs, and now we analyze CBCT as well. And just, I don't know, maybe 2, 3 months ago,
Yeah,
we
it was
got the
recent.
FDA.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the FDA approval for
Wow.
CBCT as well. So that will be coming all around the world. You know, we're in 120 countries, so we're
Wow.
everywhere. And it's been really cool to get involved with the startup world. You know, now I advise about 12 different tech companies, dental tech companies, and a few investment funds as well. So I never thought that that would be part of my journey, but it's actually turned into a pretty large part of my journey with bringing new technology into the profession. And I always like to relate it back to mental health, you know, like what can we do for dental practitioners or for practices to decrease stress, increase efficiencies, make more money, do better treatment. So all the technology that I'm involved with, that's what we're trying to do.
So would I be wrong if I say that the light side dentistry as a platform is your main tool to communicate and teach and approach people for mental resilience and health?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that, you know, we have everything from free PDFs to mini courses to my signature course, Lightside Academy. We have masterminds as well. But that's where I put all my effort for the mental health side of what I do.
And what is really resonating with me, you're helping people to make their careers sustainable, not
Hmm.
more successful,
That's
but
right.
the key word is sustainable.
Yeah, because like you said before, anybody can have success in dentistry. It's not that difficult to have success, meaning you make a lot of money, you do some great work, right? But to do it for, my dad did it for 46 years. My dad was a dentist for 46 years. To do that, that's sustainable. You have to do that sustainably. So, like me, I went really high really fast, but then I burned out and came really low too, which isn't very sustainable, right? So now that I've learned how to make this sustainable and help other people do this, I want people to practice for a long time. I want them to make money for a long time. I want them to treat patients and support their families for a long time. And you can't do that if you have burnout. You can't do that if you're depressed. You can't do that if you're a bad leader. So yeah, sustainability is what I like to preach.
I really love the term because sustainable is such a powerful concept. And I'm glad that you are also, using terms like resilience, sustainable, and it's such a good way to communicate with other people, not just about success culture, which is pushing everybody to the limit to perform. And one of the things that I also learned when I walked the Camino is that, there is a lot of self-help concepts which are pushing you to become the better version of yourself, which means that maybe the current version is not good enough. And not being good enough is the limiting belief that turns you into the victim of your own success. And I have seen and I see a lot of dentists who are victims of their own success. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree. Yeah.
So this is something that is hard for people to understand, because the bottom line of that victim mentality is I'm not good enough. That limiting belief. So I always try to communicate to them, this is where you should start, because you are good enough already who you are. You just have to get to know yourself a little bit better and dive into, who you are, and then share more of that essence, who you are, with others.
Yeah, I think it's just we have to have the self-awareness first. That's like step 0 in any problem. Having the self-awareness, first of all, that there is a problem.
Yeah.
And understanding why it's happening, what's happening. And then really it's just skills. And I think dentists only think that skills are things you do with your hands. But skills can be how you think between your ears or what comes out of your mouth. And so once you learn these skills, these different mindsets, you were already enough. You just didn't have the skills.
Yes.
So as a person, you were enough, but you just didn't have these skills. It's like, I used to think that idea that Martin taught me between the stimulus and the response, I used to think that was just, you had it or you didn't. And what I learned is that is a skill. How to communicate is a skill. How to set expectations is a skill. How to be a leader is a skill. It's just skills that we were never taught.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you posted also that meeting a new problem, it just means that I don't have the skills yet.
That's right.
To manage that problem,
That's right. And that was a big learning for me, is I thought you either had it or you didn't. People were good at talking with patients, or you weren't.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's just a skill. It's like anything. Any skill is something that you have to understand the problem. You have to practice the problem. I mean, it's like if we were in dental school our first year and you're in the simulation lab and you prep your first crown. And if it's good, you say, oh, that person's good automatically. And if it's bad, then you say, well, you're always going to be bad. I mean, all of us were bad, right?
Yeah.
But you do 100 crowns and you get a lot better. It's just a skill that needs to be practiced.
Yeah.
But you have to put the time, effort, and money into it to make it happen.
Probably like in jiu-jitsu, you have to practice over and over and over again.
I mean, that's, in jiu-jitsu really reduces your ego.
Yeah, a lot.
You would think it would make your ego higher because it's like, oh, I can fight now.
Yeah.
But you just get your butt kicked every time you come in. And,
by the blue belts.
Yeah.
In the beginning.
I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 2 years, so not too long. And it's frustrating. Every time I go in there, I get my butt kicked. And, my professors always tell me it's just mat time. It's just, you put more mat time in, you keep showing up, and you get better. And a person who, people say, like, what's the difference between a black belt and a white belt? It's just, they've put in more time. That's it.
Yeah.
They're not like more athletic ability, or it's just, they've had more mat time. That's it.
I just have 2 more questions because this podcast would probably last for 2 hours. The first one is...
you and I could talk for a long time.
Yeah, and thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
It's been fun.
You are training sports, and in sports, all professional athletes, they have trainers.
Yeah.
So, which is not common in the business world, you know.
Right.
So do you have your trainers and coaches apart from jiu-jitsu?
I do. You know, I never paid for a coach up until a few years ago. So I always had mentors only. And then in 2023, I think it was, so only about 2 years ago, I got my first coach. And it changed my life. And now I'm on my third coach. So I you know, because I'm doing different things with different people.
Yes.
And I mean, I don't know if I've gotten more value out of anything than my coaching. The first one I did was very expensive. And I was like, this is the most money I've spent on anything besides maybe a car or a house.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I got the ROI value back in 3 months. I mean, it was incredible. I've become such a big fan of coaching. I used to think coaching was kind of bullshit.
Yes.
You know, I was like,
Yes.
what? I'm going to pay this person. What are they going to do?
Yes.
And now I am like singing from the heavens that everybody needs a coach.
I totally agree with you. And it's also important message that you should get a professional trainer or a coach, especially for the soft skills or business skills. And
For sure.
we are on the same page on that. So my final question, and actually it's not a question, it's a statement. We will be privileged to have you as a speaker giving an online lecture this October at the DBL Summit, and hopefully next year to play live on the stage, but this is hopefully.
That's the plan.
So what would be the message? What can we share with our future audience that will come to the DBL Summit to listen to you talking? What would be your takeaway message?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about the 3 biggest mistakes that dental professionals make in their career and how to avoid them. And these are all mistakes that I made as well and learned from them, and mistakes that I've helped over 2,000 dentists change in their life. So yeah, come being ready to be vulnerable, being ready to hear more of my story and stories of some others as well. And I think they're going to leave that webinar with a lot of take-home things that they can change that day.
Kyle, thank you for your time. It was such a great conversation. I'm really privileged to be able to do it with you. So thank you from my side, from our production, and from all the viewers that will be watching your messages that we spoke about today.
Yeah, it's been really fun, really nice getting to know you, and I look forward to meeting you in person.
Okay.